Hello, everybody. Welcome to the I Am IT YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz, and as ever, I am the IT Geek. Welcome back to my SE200 Microsoft Security Operations Analyst exam prep YouTube series. So, as I said, mentioned in the last episode, we are on the home stretch now. We've got two more learning paths, but 5 episodes in total to cover now. Now 4. So we started Learning Path 7, episode 1 in the last episode. And now we're moving on to Learning Path 2. So doing a lot of the sort of threat protection, threat analysis around Microsoft Sentinel in this learning path. So without further ado, let's get started with this episode. My socials, you must know those off by heart by now, and they're in the description as well, so no need to make a note of those. So we covered threat detection with Microsoft Sentinel Analytics, we covered automation in Microsoft Sentinel, and we've already covered threat response with Microsoft Sentinel playbooks. And we created a workbook as well with a demo. So that's what we covered in episode 1. This episode, we're going to take a closer look at security incident management in Microsoft Sentinel. We'll talk about entity behavioral analytics in Microsoft Sentinel. We'll then talk about data normalization in Microsoft Sentinel. And we'll finish off with a demo of using repositories in Microsoft Sentinel as well. So let's talk about security incident management in Microsoft Sentinel. So incident management specifically. So this is the complete sort of process of incident investigation from the creation at the start all the way to the in-depth investigation and finally to the sort of resolution. So that can all be done obviously through Microsoft Sentinel. We'll talk about evidence and entities. Now, start off with events. So the events link you back to one or more sort of specific events from the Log Analytics workspace associated with your Microsoft Sentinel. On their own, these are sort of workspaces typically contain thousands and thousands of sort of events, and they're too numerous to sort of manually parse. If a query attached to a sort of Microsoft Analytics rule returns event, it attaches the event to the generated incident for any sort of potential review afterwards. You can use these events to understand the scope and frequency of the incident before you investigate any further. Um, and most incidents are generated because of analytical rule alerts. For example, it can include sort of detection of suspicious files, detection of suspicious user activities, and sort of attempted sort of elevation of any privileges. Analytical rules are generated alert based either on KQL, which is Custom Query Language, which is kind of covered already, or direct connection to Microsoft security solutions like Defender for Cloud or 365 Defender. If you enable sort of alerting grouping, Microsoft Sentinel includes any sort of related alert evidence for that incident. We then have what's called incident entities. So an entity refers to a network or sort of user resource that's involved with that specific event. You can use entities as sort of entry points to explore all alerts and correlations associated with that entity. Entity relationships are very useful, especially when you're investigating sort of an incident. And instead of analyzing the incident alerts, network alerts and data alert, access alerts individually, you can use the entities to sort of observe any alerts associated with that particular user, host, or address of your environment. Some entity types kind of include account, host, IP, URL, and file hash. We then have what we call incident evidence. So these consist of sort of security event information and related sort of Microsoft Sentinel assets that identify threats in your environment. So the incident evidence shows you how Microsoft Sentinel has identified that threat and links it back to a specific resource that can increase your awareness of the sort of all the full details of that incident. While investigating an incident, you might identify events that you want to track or mark for later investigation. And you can preserve the sort of queries in Log Analytics by choosing one or more events and designating them as bookmarks. You can also record notes and tags to sort of better inform future threat hunting processes. Bookmarks are available to you and all your teammates within that SOC team. So quite a bit to cover there in evidence and entities. Let's talk about entity behavior analytics in Microsoft Sentinel. Specifically, entity behavior analytics. As Microsoft Sentinel collects logs and sort of alerts from all of its connected data sources, it analyzes them and it builds sort of baseline behavioral profiles. of your sort of organization's entities. So, like that we mentioned in the last slide: users, hosts, IP addresses, applications, etc. It does that across time and peer group horizon. Using various techniques and machine learning capabilities, Sentinel can then identify anomalous activity and help you sort of determine if an asset has been compromised. Let's talk about display entities timeline specifically. When you encounter sort of an entity in a search, an alert, or sort of an investigation, you can select the entity in a sort of investigation sort of process and take and be taken to sort of that entity page, which is a data sheet sort of full of useful information about that entity. Types of information you'll find on this sort of page include sort of basic facts about the entity, a timeline of any sort of notable events related to this entity, and insights about the entity's behaviour. Just a quick thing to note though, not all entities have full details. Let's talk about anomaly detection, alert, analytical rule templates now. So Microsoft Sentinel's customizable sort of machine learning based anomalies can identify sort of behavior with analytical rule templates, and these can be put to work sort of right out of the box. And you get sort of additional signals to improve your detection. You can get evidence during investigation, and these help with the sort of start of that sort of proactive threat hunting as well. Let's talk about data normalization now in Microsoft Sentinel. So this is like the sort of final area I want to cover in this in this episode. Sorry. So if let's talk about understanding data normalization first. So Asin provides a sort of seamless experience for handling various sources in sort of uniform normalized views by providing the following sort of functionality. First of all, you've got creating a resource detection. So normalized analytic rules work across sources, on-premises and cloud, and detect attacks such as sort of brute force or sort of impossible travel across systems, including Okta, AWS, and Azure. We then have at number two, we have source agnostic content. So the coverage of both the built-in and custom content using ASIM automatically, it expands to any source that supports ASIM, even if that source is added after the content was created. An example of this is the process event analytics, and it supports any source that a customer may use to bring in any data, such as Defender for Endpoint, Windows Event, and Sysmon. Number three, we have support for custom sources, and this is in the built-in analytics. Finally, we have ease of use, and after an analyst learns ASIM, writing queries is much simpler, and as the field names are always the same as well. Let's talk about Asin parsers. So this is currently in preview. So use advanced system information modeling or Asin parsers instead of table names in queries. And you do that to view data in a normalized format. Now, when using ASIM in your queries, use unifying parsers to combine all those sources, normalize to the same schema, and query them using normalized fields. And some examples there of the sort of schema and the unifying parser as well. So authentication is IAM authentication, DNS is underscore IAM underscore DNS, and the schema of a process event is IAM process create, IAM process terminate, for example. Talk about creating parameterized KQL functions. So in calling KQL functions, you can provide a set of parameters. This is an important concept of building async parsers as it allows you to filter the function results with dynamic values before returning your results. So if we talk about custom async parsers, the sort of development process, first step is to collect sample logs. You then identify sort of schema or schemas that the event sent from the source represent. You then need to map the source event field to the identified schema or schemas. You then develop one or more async parsers for your source, and you'll need to develop a sort of filtering parser and a parameterless parser for each schema relevant to the source. You then test your parser. Then step 6 is to deploy the parser into your Microsoft Sentinel workspace. And then finally, well, not finally, sorry, penultimate step is to update the relevant ASIM unifying parsers to reference the new custom parser. And then finally, you might also want to sort of contribute your parsers to your sort of primary parser distribution. And contributed parsers may also be available in all your workspaces as built-in parsers as well. So final slide before we move on. Let's talk about Azure Monitor data log collection. So in log analytics, data collection rules or DCRs determine the data flow for different input streams. A data flow includes the data stream to be transformed, standard or custom, the destination workspace, the KQL transformation, and the output table. Talk about standard DCR used with sort of different workflows that send data as your monitor, and workflows currently supported for AMA-based connectors and workflows using new log ingestion APIs with custom logs. For workspace transformation DCR, this is used with Log Analytics Workspace to apply ingestion time transformation to workflows, and these don't currently support DCRs. Finally, talk about transformations. Transformations in a data collection rule, DCR, allow you to filter or modify incoming data before it's stored in a Log Analytics Workspace. Direct transformations are sort of defined using KQL, custom query language, custom query language, sorry, statement that is applied individually for each entry in the data source. Right, let's move on to the demo again. Just to remember myself, because I've forgotten already, we're going to talk about we're going to do a demo of using repositories in Microsoft Sentinel. So let's get over to the portal. Welcome back to the Azure portal. So again, we're at the home page here. Click on Microsoft Sentinel, click on our workspace, and we need to go all the way down to configuration and analytics. And we select our kind of active rule here. At the top here, we want to click on export. Click on export, and that'll export your file to a JSON file. And if I quickly share my screen, I'll just show you how you can review that, show you how that looks. So this is what the JSON file looks like. And you can obviously review that and review how it's put together and update it if you need to. So that was the first one. Let's go back into the portal again. So now we've had a look at that initial rule, we've downloaded it. I want to, the next thing is to create our DevOps environment, Azure DevOps environment. Um, so we need to go to Azure DevOps first of all. We need to create that new organization. Continue. Oh, it's obviously the first time creating this, so probably have to do this yourself the first time you create it. So let's create the project, let's give it a name. So let's call it SC200 content. And I'll click on, we'll keep it private, we want to create a project. Once that's created, we want to go to repos. I want to initialize that sort of main branch. Yeah. Yeah, select initialize. Should show the files in the repo now, as you can see. There we go, that readme file. I want to select these three dots here. And then we're going to go to upload files. This is now we're going to select that analytics rule here. Then click on commit. On the top left, we need to select the Azure DevOps, top left corner. Then select organizational settings. There we go. And select policies. I want to toggle on the third party application. So once we've enabled the third-party application access via OAuth under this sort of application connections policy, we want to connect Sentinel to the Azure DevOps. So we need to head back to Sentinel. Just select repositories, which is in previous is a content management area here. Then we need to click on add new. So again, we'll just call it SC200 content. And again, the source, we want to change that from Azure, from GitHub to Azure DevOps. Select authorize. It's a double authorize. You can't probably see that, but you get basically a little authorize pop-up window. You need to authorize that. Once I've accepted that, you can select the sort of organization, which is that one there. Choose that project, so that's one I created. Choose a repository. Choose a branch, and then again under the sort of on the repository, you can sort of select all. We'll select all content. Select everything, shall we? And at this point, you can click on Create. And then if we go back to Sentinel Workspace, if needed, and we can go to Repositories, and when we select Refresh, we should see. So if that's complete, and then we'll refresh the screen. There we go. We can see our repository there. So that is the lab on using repositories in Microsoft Sentinel. I'm obviously following it on the GitHub lab at the same time as well. So, hopefully you got something of that. I'd definitely recommend following that yourself and have a play back with the repositories in Sentinel. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Some useful links in my description. I've got the link to the GitHub repository. I've got the link to the SE200 practice exam questions with Measure Up. Also my all the rest of my sort of socials there as well: Twitter, LinkedIn, all my TikTok. I'm doing some interesting TikToks at the moment, a bit of fun. So yeah, thank you for watching. Next episode is going to be the final part in this learning path, episode 3. So thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.